You walk into a family room, and your body already knows the temperature of the day. Someone is too quiet, someone is too loud, and before a single honest sentence is spoken, you can feel the tension moving under the surface. Now, let me ask you a question that can feel almost shocking the first time you really consider it. What if your empathy is not just who you are, but the role you were trained to perform, and the moment you stop performing it, the entire family system starts to shake? In other words, what if your sensitivity has been functioning like unpaid emotional labor, and 2026 is the year your soul finally refuses the job? This is why so many empathetic women feel a quiet inner shift as we move into 2026. Not because they have become cold, not because they stopped loving, but because something deeper has crossed a psychological threshold. The old role that once kept the peace now feels like a cage. You are tired in a way sleep cannot fix. You can sense tension before anyone speaks. You already know what you should do to stabilize the room, and part of you resents that you still know how. You have spent years being the emotional anchor, the translator, the one who understands everyone while being understood by no one. Jung would call this the beginning of individuation, the moment the self demands truth over approval. Individuation is not about becoming selfish, it is about becoming real. It is the inner turning point where your psyche stops rewarding a false peace that requires your silence, your overgiving, and your constant emotional monitoring. And this is the part that can feel both terrifying and relieving. When the self rises, the roles that once felt necessary start to feel suffocating. A threshold year does not magically erase the wound, but it changes the center of gravity inside you. Something that used to tolerate begins to reject. If you want proof that this is happening, do something simple right now. Give yourself 3 minutes and write 2 sentences without overthinking. In my family, I always had to be the one who, then write. If I stop, I fear. When you can name your role in 2 clean lines, you are no longer trapped in confusion. You are looking at the pattern. You are seeing the contract, and once you can see it, you can begin to step out of it. That is why one boundary sentence can feel like a revolution in an empathetic woman's body, even before she ever says it out loud to anyone else. Say it softly to yourself first. Let your nervous system hear it. I love you, but I'm not carrying this anymore. Because walking away from the family wound is not always a dramatic exit. Sometimes it is a quiet internal departure, a refusal to keep paying for love with your health, a decision to stop orbiting the emotional gravity of everyone else. And this is where our story begins. If you call it intuition, you need to see where it was born. Most days, your intuition announces itself before your mind even has a chance to speak. You step into a room, and something in you starts listening to everything that is not being said. The way the cabinet closes is a little too hard. The pause before someone answers a simple question. The smile looks polite, but not warm. It is like your nervous system has a second set of eyes, and they are always scanning for danger, not because you want drama, but because unpredictability once taught you that peace can break at any moment. Think about how this shows up in real life. You are driving to a family dinner, and you have already rehearsed what to say if someone gets offended, how to change the topic, how to make it lighter, and how to keep the night from turning into a storm. You walk through the door and instantly know who is upset, not because they told you, but because you can feel it in the air like static. You lower your voice without realizing it. You choose your words like you are diffusing a wire. If your mother gets quiet, you start explaining yourself more. If your father sighs, you start offering solutions. If your sibling is sharp, you start smiling wider. as if warmth could melt their mood before it spills over. Even your phone becomes a radar. A short text, a delayed reply, a single period at the end of a sentence, and your body tightens, already preparing for what might come next. This is why empathetic women often feel exhausted after nothing happened. Because something did happen, your system worked overtime. You did emotional math all night. You tried to predict outcomes, prevent explosions, and manage invisible tensions that were never yours to carry. Jung would not call this your true self. He would call it a persona shaped by survival, a mask the psyche creates to stay safe and belong. Over time, the mask becomes so familiar that you mistake it for identity. You start calling it intuition because it sounds beautiful and because the truth is harder to face. The truth is that some of your sensitivity was forged in an environment where you had to be alert. When emotional weather changes fast, a child learns to become a human barometer. And that barometer becomes a woman who can sense everyone, but struggles to sense herself until she is already past her limit. Here is a simple way to interrupt the pattern without turning your life upside down. The next time an emotional demand lands on you, a heavy sigh, a passive comment, a sudden guilt trip, a sharp tone, pause for 10 seconds before you respond. 10 seconds can feel like a lifetime when you are trained to fix things instantly. But in that small pause, ask yourself one honest question. Am I responding from fear or truth? Fear rushes to soothe, explain, apologize, and stabilize. Truth takes a breath and checks your own center first. Do this consistently for 1 week, and you will notice something measurable. Fewer instant reactions, fewer automatic yeses, fewer moments where you walk away wondering why you gave away your peace so quickly. And if the pressure rises in that pause, give yourself a sentence that protects you without creating a war. I need time. I'll respond later. At first, this will feel uncomfortable because you are used to being fast, agreeable, and emotionally available. But discomfort is often the first sign that you are stepping out of an old contract, because when you become the radar, the family quietly assigns you the job of stabilizing everyone. Somewhere along the line, your family stopped treating you like a daughter and started treating you like the emotional thermostat. When the room got too hot, you were the one expected to cool it down. When the silence got too cold, you were the one expected to warm it up. Not with a formal announcement, of course. Families rarely say, "Congratulations, you are now responsible for everyone's feelings." They just drift into it, one small moment at a time, until you look up and realize you are not only loving your family, but you are managing them. You can see it in the little scenes that repeat. Two relatives start bickering and everyone looks at you, not because you caused it, but because you are the one who can handle it. Your phone rings after an argument and you become the translator. He did not mean it like that. She is under stress. Just give them time. You are the peacekeeper, the fixer, the human buffer zone. You apologize first, even when you did nothing wrong, because you can feel how easily the air could turn sharp again. You rewrite your words so nobody feels attacked. You smooth over tone, soften truth, and swallow your own reactions, all to keep the family from combusting. Then, when everyone finally calms down, you are the one left holding the emotional aftermath, like smoke in your lungs after a fire that everyone else walks away from. This is why empathetic women often feel strangely lonely, even inside a crowded family. Being the regulator means you are always watching the whole system instead of being inside your own life. You do not fully relax during holidays. You do not fully enjoy birthdays. You do not fully rest on vacations. You are always tracking who is about to get offended, who needs reassurance, who might explode, who might go silent, who will weaponize guilt, and who will pretend nothing happened. You become so skilled at emotional management that people praise you for being mature, the understanding, the strong one, without seeing the hidden cost. When you are the strong one, no one asks what it costs you to stay strong. Jung would recognize this pattern as the rescuer complex, and it often forms when a child learns that safety depends on emotional labor. The child discovers, consciously or unconsciously, that calming others keeps the environment stable, and stability feels like survival. So you become the mediator, not because it is your destiny, but because your nervous system learned, if I keep them okay, I stay okay. Over time, this becomes a persona, a role that feels like love, but is actually a protection strategy. You are not just empathic, you are trained. Your sensitivity becomes a tool not for joy or connection, but for preventing chaos. If you want to see how deeply this role is woven into you, take 10 minutes and do a simple role audit. Write down 5 roles you carry in your family: mediator, fixer, emotional sponge, peacekeeper, forgiver. Be honest, even if it stings. Then circle one role you will return first. Not 5, not everything. 1. That is how you break a system without breaking yourself. This is measurable. You stop one specific role instead of trying to stop everything at once. And you will feel the difference immediately, because the moment you stop being the automatic stabilizer, the family has to face something they have avoided for years, their own responsibility. Here is what returning the role can sound like in real life. 2 people start escalating and your body prepares to jump in. Your old self would step between them, soften the sharpness, and translate the feelings. But this time, you breathe, and you say one sentence, calmly and clearly. I'm not the mediator. You two can speak directly. It might feel like you dropped a glass on the floor. The room might go quiet. Someone might stare. Someone might accuse you of changing. That reaction is not proof that you are wrong. It is proof that your role has been holding up the structure. And the truth that hits like lightning in this moment is the one most empathetic women have never allowed themselves to name. You weren't raised. You were recruited. The moment you return to the role, guilt will try to pull you back. The guilt usually arrives before anyone even says a word. It shows up as a tightening in your chest when your phone lights up, a strange heaviness when you consider saying no, a restless thought that whispers, if you do not fix this, you are a bad daughter, a bad sister, a bad woman. And what makes guilt so powerful is that it does not feel like a weapon. It feels like love. It feels like responsibility. It feels like morality. But in many families, guilt is an invisible leash, and it keeps you performing the old role even when the role is quietly destroying you. You can see it the moment you try to change anything. You finally decide you will not attend the gathering because your nervous system needs rest. And immediately you hear the familiar lines, even if nobody speaks them out loud after everything we have done for you. You are being dramatic. You always think you are better than us now. Or the guilt comes in softer clothing. Your mother sighs and says, "It is fine. Do what you want," and the sentence is coated with disappointment. Your sibling texts, "So you are just going to let them be like this?" And suddenly you feel responsible for emotions you did not create. You take one day for yourself, and a voice inside says you are selfish. You choose silence instead of mediating, and you feel like you are abandoning the family. You rest, and it feels like failing. This is how the leash works. It does not need chains. It uses conscience. It uses your tenderness against you. It makes you believe that boundaries are cruel and exhaustion is proof that you are not doing enough. And because empathetic women are naturally sensitive, guilt lands like a hook. You do not just feel guilty for what you do. You feel guilty for what others might feel if you do not do it. That is why even when you say no, your mind keeps walking back into the room, replaying faces, rehearsing explanations, rewriting your tone, trying to soften the impact of your own needs. Jung would call this deeper than personal guilt. He would point to what feels like an ancestral contract, a silent agreement passed down through generations that says, one woman must carry what others refuse to feel. In many families, the emotional burden did not begin with you. It is older than you. It lives in patterns. The one who keeps peace, the one who sacrifices, the one who absorbs, the one who stays loyal to pain because pain has been treated as proof of love. So when you try to step out, guilt rises like a guard at the gate, not because you are wrong, but because you are breaking an old loyalty. If you want to loosen this leash without getting lost in overthinking, take 7 minutes and write a simple sheet that separates guilt from truth. In the first column, write, I feel guilty because, and let it be raw. I feel guilty because I did not call back immediately. I feel guilty because I do not want to visit. I feel guilty because I cannot keep listening to complaints. I feel guilty because I want peace. In the second column, write, the truth is, I need rest. The truth is, I cannot be the mediator anymore. The truth is, I am allowed to say no without proving my reasons. In the third column, write, one small action I'll do differently this week. One small action, not a dramatic reinvention. Maybe you do not answer right away. Maybe you do not explain. Maybe you can attend for 1 hour instead of 4. Maybe you say no once and let the discomfort exist without rushing to fix it. This becomes measurable in a real way. Within 7 days, you should be able to point to one behavior you changed, not just one emotion you felt, and you will notice something important. When you stop feeding guilt with explanations and overgiving, the family system often reacts because the leash is losing tension. That is why one sentence can be a turning point, even if your voice shakes when you say it. I won't explain myself. My decision stands. Because guilt weakens when you stop negotiating with it, and when guilt weakens, you finally see the next prison more clearly. Kindness used as obligation. Kindness becomes dangerous when it is used as proof that you deserve a place in the room. That is the quiet trap so many empathetic women do not notice until they are older, exhausted, and suddenly asking themselves, when did my life become a constant act of understanding everyone else? Because in many families, being good is not just a compliment. It is a contract. It means you will not make things difficult. It means you will forgive quickly. It means you will stay calm while others cause chaos. It means you will be the one who can be counted on to swallow your feelings so the family can stay comfortable. You can see the pattern in the everyday moments that look harmless on the surface. Someone speaks to you sharply and later says, "You know I did not mean it," and your family praises you for being mature when you let it go. You bring up something that hurt you, and the conversation turns into, "Why are you so sensitive?" And suddenly your pain becomes the problem. You say you are tired, and someone replies, "We are all tired," as if your exhaustion is an inconvenience to the narrative. Or you get the classic compliment that is really a sentence disguised as praise. "You are the strong one. You always understand. You never cause drama, and you smile because you have been trained to see approval as love, even when that approval costs you your truth." This is why goodness can become a cage. When you are rewarded for being quiet, you learn to silence your needs. When you are rewarded for being forgiving, you learn to tolerate behavior that should have changed long ago. When you are rewarded for being understanding, you learn to rationalize what is actually disrespect. And the most painful part is that you can empathize with everyone, yet no one truly sees you. You can explain everyone's motives, yet nobody asks what it costs you to keep doing that. You give endlessly, yet reciprocity feels rare. You show up for birthdays, crises, and emotional emergencies, but when you need support, the room suddenly gets busy, quiet, or strangely distant. In Jungian terms, this is the good persona. It is a mask of belonging. It is how the psyche learns to secure love through performance. The persona is not fake in the sense that you are lying. It is fake in the sense that it is incomplete. It is the part of you that knows how to be accepted, but not necessarily how to be whole. And when you live inside that mask long enough, you start confusing being nice with being safe. You start confusing being easy to deal with being loved. You start shrinking your truth so nobody has to feel uncomfortable around it. If you want to test whether your relationships are built on real respect or on your self-abandonment, run a simple reciprocity test for 7 days. For 7 days, do not rush to rescue, mediate, or soothe. Do not jump in when someone is upset to fix it for them. Do not apologize first, to dissolve tension that is not yours. Do not soften your truth, just to keep someone calm. Watch what happens. Notice who shows up with respect, who adapts, who speaks to you directly, who starts taking responsibility for their own emotional weather. And notice who only shows up to take, who becomes irritated when you are not instantly available, who tries to pull you back into the old role with guilt, coldness, or subtle punishment. This is measurable in a way that can change your life. You are no longer collecting hope. You are collecting behavioral evidence. You are seeing who loves your presence and who loves your usefulness. And as you watch, repeat a boundary that is both gentle and unbreakable. I can love you without losing myself. That sentence is not an attack. It is a return to your own center. Because this is the moment the truth lands, not as a theory, but as a blade that cleanly cuts the illusion. Your goodness was not the problem. Your self-abandonment was. And when that mask begins to crack, something rises from underneath, something you were taught to fear, but something that may be the beginning of your freedom. Anger often enters an empath woman's life like a stranger she has been warned about, someone she thinks will ruin everything if she lets them in. You feel the heat rise in your chest, and your first instinct is to shut it down, swallow it, pray it disappears. You tell yourself you are being dramatic. You remind yourself to be understanding. You try to turn rage into politeness because for years you were taught that good women do not get angry, they get quiet, they get useful, they get forgiving. But the truth is that anger is not your enemy. Anger is your boundary, finally speaking in a language that cannot be ignored. This is why 2026 can feel so unsettling. You start noticing irritation where you used to feel numbness. You start feeling offended where you used to excuse. You start hearing the manipulation inside innocent comments. Someone makes a joke at your expense, and you do not laugh automatically anymore. Someone calls you selfish for resting, and something inside you does not collapse into guilt. It flares. Someone expects you to mediate another fight, and your body says no before your mouth can form a polite sentence. And then you get scared. You worry you are becoming cold. You worry you are changing into someone unrecognizable. But what is really happening is clarity. The fog is lifting. The spell of the persona is breaking. And what looks like coldness from the outside is often just the end of your emotional overfunctioning. Watch how the family system reacts when you stop feeding its emotional economy. You do not respond immediately to a guilt text, and suddenly they send 3 more messages, each one sharper than the last. You decline a last-minute demand, and someone accuses you of thinking you are better than they are. You refuse to translate feelings between 2 adults, and one of them calls you disrespectful. You stop rescuing, and the people who relied on your rescue start to panic because you are no longer predictable. The system was built on your availability. Your softness was used like currency. Your patience was used like a resource. When you withdraw it, even gently, it exposes how much the peace depended on your self-erasure. Jung would say something important here. Exhaustion is psychic. The unconscious stops supplying energy to a false persona. That is why you cannot keep doing what you used to do. It is not just that you are tired. Your psyche is refusing to fund a role that is no longer aligned with who you are becoming. The anger you feel is not random. It is energy returning to its rightful owner. It is the part of you that knows where the line is, even if you have never been allowed to draw it. And when anger rises, it is often pointing to a simple truth. Something has been taken from you for too long: time, respect, safety, your right to say no, your right to be a person instead of a service. If your anger feels too big to hold, give it a safe place to speak for 6 minutes. Write an unsent letter. Start with 3 sentences and let them be honest. I'm angry because I lost. I need. You do not have to send it. You are not trying to start a war. You are trying to stop abandoning yourself in silence. When you finish, tear it up or store it privately. The measurable shift is simple but powerful. You name your anger instead of swallowing it. You let it become information instead of poison. And in real life, when emotional demands come at you like gravity, give yourself 1 boundary sentence that protects your nervous system without explaining, justifying, or begging to be understood. I'm not available for emotional demands right now. That one line will reveal everything. It will reveal who respects you and who only respects your role. It will reveal who can handle your boundaries and who only felt safe when you had none. Because the moment you stop being the emotional fuel, you finally see the architecture of the wound. If you have made it this far, you can probably feel the truth under everything we have named. You did not suddenly stop loving your family. You simply stopped confusing love with self-erasure. For years, the family wound stayed alive because you were the one who absorbed the shock, softened the truth, and paid the emotional bill so everyone else could pretend nothing was wrong. And now, in 2026, something in you is done pretending. That is not abandonment. That is awakening. You still care. You may still show up. You may still answer the phone. But you refuse to sacrifice your nervous system to keep the peace. You refuse to live with a clenched jaw and a tight chest just so the room stays calm. Distance becomes sacred, not as punishment, but as protection. Truth becomes breathable, not because it is easy, but because it is real. And Jung would say this is what individuation looks like in ordinary life. Not a dramatic escape, but the quiet ending of unconscious loyalty to pain. When you stop repeating the role, you stop repeating the pattern. Here is a simple exercise that turns your feelings into a clear vision. Take 30 minutes, just once, and sketch 3 generations of your family on paper. Do not try to be perfect. Draw names and lines. Then mark the patterns you can see. Who explodes? Who goes silent? Who sacrifices? Who controls? Who pretends nothing happened? Who carries everyone? When you see it laid out, it stops being a vague emotional fog. It becomes an architecture. Now, circle one loop, you will end in 2026, just one. Maybe it is the rescuer role. Maybe it is explaining yourself. Maybe it is rushing to soothe. Maybe it is tolerating guilt as a command. This is measurable because you can see the pattern clearly on paper, not just in emotion. And each week, you revisit it, not to judge your family, but to remember your choice. Because the deepest lesson is simple: healing a family wound does not always mean fixing the family. Sometimes it means refusing to be the place where the wound lives. You didn't abandon them. You abandoned the role. In 2026, which thread will you cut first? Guilt, the rescuer role, or fear of being called selfish? If this touched something sacred inside you, don't let it fade into silence. Like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your presence here is not just support, it's resonance. And if you feel moved to give back, your donation becomes a quiet but powerful gesture that helps keep this light alive for others still walking in the dark.